Business Supports Program Executive with SEAI. Hi, Ali.
Morning, Nicole. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this business briefing today, our final one of 2024. As Nicole said, my name is Ali Donlan and I am a Business Supports Program Executive here at SAI and your host for this morning's webinar. We're delighted to have you delighted to have so many of you on the call here today, and we hope you find it to be an informative session. So this briefing is going to be a little bit different from our usual business briefings, as I'm pleased to say that our business energy upgrade scheme and our newest support for businesses has now been live for about a month. And I'm joined by the business energy upgrade team, who are going to be giving you an overview of the scheme, the measures that are covered, how to apply, and we will also be finishing with a Q&A at the end, as I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. So we'll get going. Just a bit of housekeeping to start off. So this event is being recorded and you can submit your questions through our Q&A function. And a recording will be distributed after the event, and we'll also be doing an FAQ sheet of all the questions that were asked. We'll have a Q&A at the end, and we will endeavour to answer as many questions as we can, but if there's any that we can't answer in the time, we will be sending up a follow-up after that. And we will be adding just how you thought the event went, a survey at the end in the Q&A. So if you could please fill that out as well, we'd be very grateful. So as I said, I'm joined by the Business Energy Upgrade Scheme team today. And I'm joined by Eamon Shields, the Commercial Retrofit Program Manager, who's going to be giving you an overview of the scheme and the context. And then Saivni Hogan and Kevin Quinn are going to be going through the scheme and all the measures that are covered. And we also couldn't have a business briefing without talking about our other scheme, the non-domestic microgeneration scheme. So Owen Cullen will be going through solar PV for business. And Eamon is also going to giving us an overview of the application portal and how to apply. And as I said, we'll then be finishing it with a Q&A at the very end. So without further ado, I'm now going to hand you over to Eamon Shields.
Thank you, Ali. Morning, everyone, and really appreciate so many people turning up for what we believe is a groundbreaking change to our grant scheme for businesses, where we've worked for the last 3 years to try to pull this scheme together. And we're just going to give you a brief overview. There's 9 measures overall, and within those measures, there's a huge amount of potential options. So obviously we won't be able to drill into everything today. There is an individual page on the website for each measure, which gives you an overview, but we'll be supplementing that over the coming weeks and months with further detail drilling into all the different technologies, because there's a number of technologies within each of those elements. I suppose if we just move on to the next slide there, Ali. Or I can take control actually and do that myself. Thank you. Thanks, Ali. So I suppose just to look in context of where the scheme sits. So as Ali said, there's obviously a number of existing schemes, and they're really successful in the areas that they're designed to work in, which is the Exceed scheme there, if you look at it. And you've also got the SSRH for heat pumps and fabric, and the SSRH for biomass and gas. So obviously the SSRH is designed around the renewable heat upgrades, and the Exceed is around highly efficient overall projects. And then you've got the community energy upgrade scheme. I suppose the thing about these schemes are they're perfect for particular types of projects. So the SSRH and the Exceed, very much if you have the time, I suppose, and you have the complexity and the correct team behind you, these schemes are perfect for those types of projects. The community schemes, again, if you're suitable to join one of those schemes and you have the time, they're perfect for that situation. But we did see that there was a gap for certain businesses, I suppose, firstly, who maybe only wanted to do very small projects, and secondly, who had a very fast timeline and didn't have the luxury of going in through these other schemes. So with that in mind, we've developed the Business Energy Upgrade Scheme, which I suppose, as you can see here, the whole idea is around that we're creating a very complex set of measures on the back end, but the way they're presented to you is in a very simple manner. So I suppose if you can think of stepping stones to get across a river. These are kind of the way they're set up is it's 9 measures. There's no particular sequence. There's no particular requirements to achieve them apart from obviously standard T's and C's in terms of company compliance. And even within those measures, you can break them down into smaller sections if it works for you. So if we look at the idea of how the scheme is set up, so it's designed to be fast, simple, accessible, non-exclusive. So that's in terms of installers and technology. And it's the idea is to create a holistic journey. So I suppose some people may have recently or over the last few years been kind of heard more about PV or heard more about heat pumps, but there's obviously a huge amount of traditional measures, single measures, which you can do on a gradual basis that will bring you from your start to your finish in whatever amount of steps you need to take. So whether it's 15, 16, 20 stepping stones, or whether you can do everything together in one leap, this scheme allows you to do that. So the way we've managed to create those measures on the outside is by using commoditized grants. So that's a fixed grant that we have pre-calculated based on very basic information that you give us, which we'll explain later on. There's obviously web pages there which we'll continue to develop to give you an understanding of the benefits and why these would fit you. There's no installer register. So essentially, if you're doing a project and you already have an M&E contractor who you use or who you're using as part of the larger project, you can tell us who that is. We tell you what the compliance requirements are, and you're free to insert their details into your application. And obviously there's varied technologies as well, which we'll go through. And the team will give you further details on. So overall, this is a fully automated system, and it allows, we believe, hopefully as you'll see from the slides, the following slides, it will allow businesses to deal with all their requirements in terms of sustainability in whatever amount of phases they need to. And also, because there's immediate approval, you will essentially, there's no upload of documents at the start. There is no human interaction at all. You essentially deal with the website, or you deal with the application portal. You get an automated letter of offer out once you've finished your 5-minute application, and then you're free to continue the works. At some stage in the project, your contractor will need to give us his details, so we will have a background register just to make sure that we're keeping control of quality out there. But again, your contractor has the time it takes to do the whole project to carry out that measure, but we'll discuss that further. So I'll pass you on to my colleague Sive, who's going to give you a bit more detail on the scheme. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Great. I'm just going to take you on a little overview of the scheme. So thanks, Eamon. So who is the grant aimed at? So the grant is aimed at all manner of businesses, all different sizes, from shops to hotels, leisure centres, schools, warehouses, offices, really any business. So as Eamon has mentioned, it's a commoditized grant, so you can take a step-by-step approach. You can basically potentially install, it's a modular approach, so any savings you accrue from installing one measure can then be used to fund future measures. So you could perhaps, replace the heating, the pump on your heating system and your hot water system. That could, with a variable speed drive or something, that a modern pump. You could replace a fan on an air handling system, or install potentially a small solar thermal system for your hot water, and those can lead to energy savings. You can apply for modular approach, as I've said, and apply for heat pumps on a system by system approach. Just to give you an overview of what measures can be funded, and what the grant is based upon the business type and the area building, and the technical details, and the specific size of the details or the system. So by that, what we mean is you input the building details, which is the area of the building, and we will spit out, or SEAI will kind of put out a grant value based on that, and based on the type of building for the heat pumps, air handling units, And then the system specific, sorry, the BMS and the other measures, design assistance and solar thermal, they're based on the size of the system that you're going to install, or the size of the works you're going to install. I'm not going to go into hugely on the details here because we will share the slides afterwards. And but just there's two, I suppose, different levels of grant support, or up to 50% for design assistance, which is either design assistance, which Kevin will speak about later, or BMS optimization. And the other grant support is up to about 30%. And these are some of the thresholds, but some of the measures can be applied for. So it's not really easy to cookie cut and say this is the amount of grant you're able to get. Would be really go into the system, have a play around, or have a put in your details, and then you'll get an idea of the grant. So where do you start as a business? Well, firstly, we've got a really, as Eamon has mentioned, helpful website here. These are contact details should you have any, weird and wonderful queries. And then each page has a pre-application form. So if you don't want to jump into the portal and have a play around or have a look around, you can look at the pre-application form for each measure, which basically gives you a step-by-step of what is going to be requested or required, or the questions that will appear on the portal. In addition to that, then there's a contractor form. So while we've said you can choose your own contractor, so the key, great things about the grant is it's applicant driven. You as a business can sit down and apply for it and have an immediate approval. There's no documentation required. The only thing to get the grant going is you need your MPRN number and confirm your business type, whether you're a shop or an office or commercial kitchen, for example, and what the area of the building. You can use your own contractor, as we've said, but they have to be compliant. So I would caution that before you kind of choose your contractor, that the contractor has a read of the company info form, which gives an indication of the minimum requirements for the selected company. They're not hugely onerous, kind of like if you're doing any electrical work that you have recce certs. And anyway, the information is there. Just to note, because it's worth noting that when your selected company must be registered on the system, so that's not a register that you choose from, you can bring your own contractor, but the company must be registered before anybody submits a request for payment, just because we have to ensure that that the people are registered. And then just my last slide before I hand over to Kevin. This is just the tile on the website, rapid approval. This tile, once you click into the business energy upgrades, hosts all the information you need. And then there's further tiles in there on each of the measures. So I will hand over to the capable hands of my colleague, Kevin.
You're just on mute there, Kevin.
Oh, nice girl. I'm going now. Okay, sorry about that.
All right.
Thanks for that. Hi, folks. My name is Kevin. I'm one of the program executives on this scheme, and I'll just give you an overview or a slightly more detailed view of the measures that we have on this scheme. I don't intend to give you a detailed description of all the nuances of it, but feel free to ask any questions, and we can address those after we've presented our slides here. So we have 9 measures in total, and these are in no particular order. But because, as you know, applicants can mix and match the measures that they feel are applicable to their business. So you can apply for one or a group of measures or all measures if need be. But just looking at each of them individually, first and foremost, we have 2 technical assistance items, which is, first of all, BMS optimization, which is optimization of an existing BMS system in your business. So we have the ability to support a consultant that will come on to your site and review your existing BMS to optimize it, to bring it to its optimum efficiency. So there's a site visit and an analysis of the system, and then they calibrate and alter the systems to your actual needs, and then report to outline any further potential actions that you can make on your existing BMS. In addition to that, then we have design assistance, where again a consultant will come into your business and they'll review your needs for your system or for your business, sorry. And we have 3 sort of main goals with this particular item. They'll come in and they'll maximize your energy efficiency, decarbonize your heat ultimately, and then improve your controls and monitoring systems that you use for your business. The only thing that I should probably point out there is that one stipulation we have is that the the consultant is a chartered consultant, a chartered engineer. It's the only particular stipulation for that measure. Then we move on to more of the commoditized grants. So first and foremost, we have solar thermal. So solar thermal enables businesses to generate their own energy from the sun, essentially, and that allows you to benefit from typically 60% of solar thermal is typically sized to meet 60% of the total hot water load of a building. So it reduces your online fossil fuel use and the carbon footprint of your business overall. So we would encourage applicants to make use of solar thermal. We don't have solar thermal we don't have solar PV in this particular scheme. We do have solar thermal. Solar PV is obviously dealt with in the NDFG scheme, which is existing, and my colleague will speak about that later on. Next, we have pumps. This is one of the measures that applicants can make multiple applications to, because you can appreciate most businesses probably have a number of different service runs in their buildings, so you can make a number of applications to this particular measure. So benefits for this will reduce the flow rate of a pump by 20% and reduce the energy requirements by about 50% according to our data so far. And you can save by installing variable speed pumps without reducing your flow rates. And you can, as I mentioned, you can change out multiple systems. You don't have to just make one application. You can make a number of different applications to this particular measure. Then we have air handling units. So the benefits of this will reduce your carbon reductions with heat recovery. This is for the optimization of an existing air handling unit or the introduction of a completely new system. In other words, an MVHR system with heat recovery. So you can save up to 75% on your ventilation-related heating costs when you replace your existing units. And you can save in electricity when you replace your existing units due to the higher efficiency of the fans that will be introduced. And where new units can't be installed, a retrofit or heat recovery and modern fans are an attractive alternative to that if you don't want to upgrade your existing air HU units. BMS controls. This is different to our BMS optimization. This is the introduction of a completely new BMS system. So we can support the install of a new BMS system, an entirely new BMS system. So the benefits of this, of course, will include saving by automating systems such as heating, cooling, lighting, and water, increased and more consistent comfort levels, consistent temperature fixed to optimum levels, and of course data to monitor the impact of changes and identify future changes. Then of course we have heat pumps. This is the introduction of the heat pump over fossil fuel use. And of course, as you know, the government is moving away from fossil fuel use, so they're emphasizing the use of heat pumps, not just in domestic but non-domestic scenarios. So the benefits of this, of course, will include switching part or all of your existing fossil fuel-based system to heat pump technology, and it has potential to reduce your running costs overall and your on-site carbon emissions, and allows you to potentially phase your transfer to heat pump, softening, of course, your capital costs and perceived risks of the new technology. And of course, it includes refrigerant-based systems or based options for when retaining existing water-based systems when they aren't feasible. And then looking at fabric, wall and roof, this is the upgrade of existing walls and existing roofs, upgrading of the insulation levels, bringing them up to a HRVER rating. So this will achieve the same or higher levels of comfort using less energy. It'll reduce your energy costs and on-site carbon emissions, and assist with the viability of a heat pump that we talked about previously. I will just point out that that doesn't include windows and it doesn't include floors. When we're talking about fabric, we're only talking about wall upgrades and roof upgrades. So that doesn't unfortunately include windows or floors, just to point that out. And I'll just hand back over to Eamon, who will take you through the application portal itself.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin, for running through all of those. So, as you can see, there's obviously that was a very brief overview of the 9 measures. There's a lot of permutations in there. So, I think as Kevin or Si would have mentioned, if you go to the bottom of the page of each of the, obviously you can read through the particular web page for each of the measures. But if you go down to the bottom, there's a pre-app form, which again is not an obligatory form, but it's essentially just to give you a bit of assistance in terms of seeing what you're going to need when you go onto the portal. And then there's also the company info form, which would also encourage you to download along with the application guide. And with those 3 documents, you'll be able to see, I suppose, what the requirements are from your side, but also some of the elements that you should look through with your company. So just in terms of their ability to meet the required compliance elements for each of the measures in terms of technical compliance, etc. But also, there also is a need at the end to provide us with certain documentation and proof. So you just want to make sure that they're fully aware of what you're going to need off them at the end, so that you get full buy-in. So yeah, so just moving on to the portal itself, I'm just gonna take control here for a moment, and then hopefully I can actually jump onto the portal and give you an idea of what it looks like. So these are just a couple of screenshots of the portal itself. So when you go onto the portal, you'll actually see this. So first you register. It's quite a simple registration, and you just go on to, and what you'll see when you log in with your registration details is this screen here. So as you can see, there's 3 measures within this that you get access with that simple registration to this page. So you've got SSEA, which is the audit scheme. You've got NDMG. I'm not sure, hopefully it's big enough for people to see there. If you have an issue, let me know. NDMG is obviously the PV scheme, which again is a rapid approval scheme similar to the new scheme. And then down below here, you have the business energy upgrade scheme. So essentially, you click create new application on the top here, and then that brings you to this page. You type in your MPRN, and typically all the cells will auto populate with the details of the site for that MPRN. You may have to pick the county or a couple of small bits here. Down the bottom, you'll put in your building age, and it's on any building up to 2022. So any like 2023 on, you're not eligible for the grant. Okay, and then basically once you jump in, then you can get into a particular application. I'm just going to try to open the live one now, if you bear with me 1 second, but I think it would be of much greater benefit. If you just bear with me 1 second. And so essentially, just as we're waiting for that, on this particular page, what you do is you pick your building detail, you pick your building type, you put in your building area, and you put in the actual number of floors in the building. So you'll see in a moment why we need that information. I'm just going to try to share this now. So somebody shout if this is or isn't working.
Yep, it's coming up there now.
It's working.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so now we're in a sample application. So you go building type. So let's say, so you have a number of building types. As I say, in the coming weeks and months, if people see that their building type isn't expressly in here, please contact us and we'll see which one would be most appropriate for you to use. We're also, if we need to, we can add more, but obviously that takes a certain amount of time. So we try to have some in here that are quite flexible, so that people have an option if their place isn't exactly listed here. So for example, warehouse, hall, a couple of these ones are quite open. But again, if you have any queries, please get in touch. So let's just say an office, for example. So I'm an office and I say I'm 2,000 meters squared and I have 2 floors. You save and continue. Then these are all your options. So essentially here it just says, please select which one you're looking to make an application for. And then just before you select, you should consider that all measures in a single application must be submitted together. So you'll see this is a very quick application process. So it can make sense to, like, if you pick everything off this page for this particular application and you go all the way to the end, unfortunately you're kind of locked in. They're all locked in together. But if you, for example, just click pumps for this particular application, let that happen, get your letter of offer for that one, then jump back in and then pick heat pumps, for example, you can actually, they're now not linked. So once your pump job is finished, you can upload your documentation and you can get paid for that. So you should just think about that. There's not really a major benefit because the system is quite simplistic in terms of how you have to apply. There's no real benefit to just ticking everything for a single application because, as I say, you're kind of locked in. Now, you can jump in very simply later and just cancel one of the applications and that'll be removed off. But, you know, it's up to yourselves how you want to do it. So look, you'll see here as well, this particular MPRN that's been used for this sample application has been used before. So if you have applied for these before, you'll see that there's actually, they're grayed out at this point. 3 of them that won't ever be grayed out is the heat pumps, air handling and pumps, because typically for each of those, there's multiple ways that you can apply, multiple stages that you can apply for in each of these. So for that reason, they always look available here. So we'll just need to see, hopefully there is still some available in here for this example. So essentially tick what you want. Hit save and continue. And you get to this page. Okay, so whatever you've picked is listed like this. And as it says here, where it still says update to something that you need to add in, but where the button turns green and it says done, it means you have picked everything we've asked you to pick. So I'll just have a quick look here into the air handlers. So here under air handlers, so you can pick, is the unit for conditioning or ventilation? So as I say, these simple questions are included within the pre-app form. So the pre-app form essentially mirrors what you're going to get asked. But you can see from this, there's only 2 questions being asked here. So you've already told us that you're in an office of 1,000 meters squared. And we've calculated typically what an office of that side would need. So as I say, the benefit of this is it's fast and it's easy to apply. Obviously, we have had to make certain assumptions, but because of the fact we've made those assumptions, that's what is allowing you to get an offer immediately. So in all these instances, for all them types of buildings and for these 3 particular types of system, we estimate what size of system you would need, and that's what your grant is based on. So let's say here, so ventilation would typically what you're using for your air handler for an office for. Then your options are, you can get a new unit with a heat recovery wheel, a new unit with a plate heat exchanger. In some instances, you'll have air handling units which are stuck in basements or just for whatever other reason, or even due to finance, you haven't got the ability to actually replace the unit or to supply an extra that aren't in positions where a combined unit makes sense. So for that reason, we have a fan replacement upgrade here. Now again, as you'll see in the pre-app form and the company forms, it will explain what the existing system needs to be for you to get this particular requirement. Obviously here, you'll need to have a supply and extract unit that is currently serving the 1,000 meter squared office, but doesn't have any heat recovery. And that's the requirement for these 2 here and for this last one. This one here, obviously, it's the particular type of fan. It needs to be one of the historical fans that has a belt-driven fan in it. And again, this is something that your contractor can explain quite simply to you. So, and then the last one here is, if you have 2 existing units and you can't replace them, but you want to get some benefit of heat recovery, this is a retrofit system, a recovery system that allows you to do that with 2 separate units. So as I say, these are 2 brand new units and these are 2 upgrades to existing unit. So let's say I pick this one with the heat recovery wheel, I hit select. Obviously it's taken quite a long time because I'm talking my way through it here. So this has now decided what size of system, what size of air handler that you would need. So if it's assuming, well, we think a 2.3 meter cubed unit with these are two basic details that you need to size the air handler. And we think that's what we're going to base our grant on. In here, you give us the details of your contractor, and it's important to note, as we say down here, when whatever details you give us is what's going to be sent, is your certain information about your application is going to be sent to that contractor, whoever you put in here. So it's really important that you ensure you put in the correct email address here. You do save and continue. That just brings you back to the page. So that is now done. Let's have a quick look at pumps. Similar idea. So again, with pumps, each of these, so you can apply up to 7 times in the pump section. So for example, if this time here you're saying, okay, I just want to change out. Now you can only click one at a time. Unfortunately, it's the simplicity of the IT system, but hopefully that won't be too onerous for people. So you can see here the cooling in the occupied space one has been used already. And that's why it's grayed out. You're going to change out your pumps for your heating system in the occupied space. And again, any of your contractors will be easy, can explain very simply to you which one of these to select. And that's the reason for the pre-app form. So I'm going to change out my heating in my occupied space. Again, this is a booster pump. This will only relate to your cold water systems. Again, your contractor can explain that to you. Most of the pump selections will be this one. So when you pump with a VSD, again, you have to be replacing a constant speed pump with this new pump. But again, that's all set out in the requirements. And the other option is a retrofit of a VSD to an existing pump. So that relates to booster pumps. But again, your contractor can explain that. Typically, this is the one you'll pick. It's select, and again, it's size the pump, and it's given a couple of details around the pump. And again, we're saying this is what the liters per second of what we've sized is how we've estimated your grant. If it's higher, you'll get, if what you put in is higher, you'll get what we've offered. If it's lower, you'll get a slightly altered grant, obviously down to the actual size that you've used. So here, you put in the details of your company again, save and continue, because again, obviously your company could be different for each of the different ones. And then you update. This is heat pump. So heat pump, unfortunately, these have all been selected. But essentially, you can see here with your heat pumps, you've got heating. So what is your heat pump being used to do? Heating, cooling, and ventilation. Heating, cooling, ventilation, hot water. Heating and hot water, heating and ventilation. Heating, hot water, and ventilation, or just hot water. If you select only heating, the first time you can come back in and pick something that doesn't have heating in it. So for example, in this instance, if you pick heating, you can come back in again and pick hot water. This allows somebody to just get a heat pump to do their hot water while they're kind of waiting maybe for further finance to allow them to do maybe possibly a more extensive requirement around the heating system. Again, if you picked heating and ventilation, you can still come in and pick hot water, but typically there's a max of 2 that you can select. Obviously, if you pick this one here, that has absolutely everything in it, which will be very uncommon. You obviously can't go back in again. And then the other one here around the technology, so it's not like let me select the technology, but there's 7 different types of technology there, including VRF systems. Here you can select what emitters you're picking or what emitters you have, and if you're changing out emitters, and then you pick a fan coil or a radiator, you tell us how many you're changing out, and you get a grant for those. Are you replacing pipework? You put in the percentage of pipework of existing pipework you're replacing up to a maximum of 60%, and you get a grant value for those. Obviously down here, we estimate the kilowatt rating of the heat pump that you've installed, and all that information together, the type of heat pump technology and the capacity is how we select the grant. And again, you go back in and you put in your details. So if we go back here, you can go back one page and say, for example, you didn't want heat pumps anymore. So you deselect heat pumps, hit save and continue. And now that has been cancelled. So as I say, you can do that at any time once you've made your application. If you realize something's not going to happen or something's delayed, you can jump back in, deselect it, and it'll be cancelled off that. And again, that means everything doesn't get held up. Save and continue. You put in your details, your bank details. Obviously, this is, as it says here, that's the important bit. Apologies, I can never find the right one of these. Second. Okay, and then so again, we've tried to make this obviously as user friendly as possible. That has now finished, and I can hit save and continue. And you just agree to the terms and conditions, the privacy policy, just that the information is true and correct. This last piece here is important. So this is around the actual, how you actually, how you're going to be funded. So this scheme can be paid through the minimus scheme. There's more details here when you go up here, or GBER. So we probably need to give you more information on that another day, but essentially with de minimis you can get up to 300 grand over the course of 3 years. If you don't meet that requirement, you need to meet the GBER requirements. So typically it's not going to appear as a major difference. There are rules around GBER. That there's no limit on how much you can get, but there are rules around it, and one of the elements of it is the fact that we have excuse me, one of the elements around it is that you need to give a proof of a minimum increase. If you're putting in a total new system, you need to show a minimum improvement between, if it's a single measure, 10% of your overall energy. If it's multiple measures, then it's 20%. Now, we're still in discussions with the regulators around exactly what measures are going to need that. But as I say, de minimis, if you're not over 300 grand over the 3 years, and that's through all different other state-funded grant schemes as well, you're fine to carry through. With GBER, we believe that it's only going to be fabric that is caught under this particular element. But again, we'll be hoping we can clarify that in the next few weeks. But as I say, the reason we have both M streams is it allows somebody to easily go through with de minimis. Similar, you should be able to easily go through with GBER apart from one or two potential of the measures. But again, this allows people, I suppose, that maybe have multiple buildings, etc., to actually still be able to access the grant, because that 300 grand could run out quite quickly. So this should be a 5-minute process, obviously, but I've been going on a fair bit. But you can see it's quite simple. So all done, as it says here, you've completed your application. You will get an automated. So now there'll be an email in my inbox that has given me a letter of offer. There'll be a copy of the email that has been sent to the company I've selected. The company selected obviously will have received that email as well, as is mentioned here. Now you're free to commence the work. So this is the essential element. So this means that if somebody actually, for example, has a pump that breaks down and it's a constant speed pump and they're urgently needing to change the pump, you can jump in here and within 5 minutes and this is why it's really good to have a cent to the scheme, even if you're not going to do it immediately, to know you have a contractor that can meet what he needs to meet, and you can go ahead and while that pump is being ordered, jump in here, throw in the details, and you get your letter of offer. Now it's important that that you apply before you actually buy the pump or order the pump. But again, as I say, it's a 5-minute element because it's important. Maybe you were going to go with a constant speed, but before you go with that, just jump in here and see if us helping you out will allow you to move and get a variable speed. And that's obviously just one example. Now, obviously, it's important to note your selected company is not currently registered. They can commence the works, but they must be registered at the end. And again, this isn't necessarily for us to create a register. It's so that obviously we want to keep a certain knowledge of if something doesn't work out with certain contractors, that we have some way of tracking what's been happening. And essentially you return to the dashboard. These are all my other applications that I've done. You can make a new application here. Obviously it tells you what's happened, application created, etc. And then if I jump back in here very quickly, I'll go through this quickly. This obviously gives you a copy of everything. Now you can't change any of these at this stage. Here this has changed to upload documents. So basically these are the values that you've been given for these. So I'm getting 19 grand for my air handling unit, and I'm getting 2,000, just over 2,000 odd for my pumps. Heat pumps was cancelled. When you're finished the project, you go to upload documentation. All the information is here, and as you would have agreed with your contractor, he gives you that documentation, and you go into each of these and basically grab the file and upload it. It's all fully automated. It's all fully automated. They all go up, and you hit save and continue. That gets uploaded to the SEAI, and then we start the review process for payment. And that is that. Obviously, there's a bit more involved, but hopefully that gives people a good sense of things. Ali, I'm not sure if would you mind sharing the presentation?
Yep, I
again
can start sharing it again.
Yeah, so I think yeah, you can I can go through all of those. Let me see.
Do you still want to go through the slides, or am I going on to
No, I think we're okay. So I think we can move on down. So look, obviously
Perfect.
That was a bit of a whistle stop tour, but hopefully it gives people a sense of what need to do. But as I say, jump onto the website and get your pre-app and your app forms or your company forms downloaded along with the application guide. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eamon, and thanks very much, Ali, as well. So I'm just going to give you an overview of the non-domestic mortgage scheme. So this is a separate scheme to the one that Eamon and the team have been talking about. So this is solely for solar PV. Now that doesn't preclude one from being granted for measures under the Business Energy Upgrade Scheme and also availing of the scheme as well. Again, as Eamon mentioned, provided you're within those state aid limits. So just to give you kind of a brief overview of this scheme. So this is as I mentioned, it's for the installation of solar PV. So the grant amounts are based off of the maximum grant amount is 162,000. So that's up to 1,000 kilowatt peak. So the scheme was originally set at 6 kilowatt peak, but it was expanded in July of 2023. So there is no BR required for the scheme, and it's available then to all pre-2021 buildings. And then also applicants can avail then of the Clean Export Guarantee. So the CG tariff then for any exported electricity then, so that's subject to the supplier rates. And then I'm not sure, that looks like a bit small there, but that's just the grant amounts then. And that's kind of giving you an example of like the sliding scale of grant amounts. So that's also listed on our website then as well, if people are having difficulty seeing that because it is quite small. And then just in relation then to just some general terms and conditions. So in terms of eligibility criteria, so it must be the business premises owner, or in the case of the public sector, the responsible person applying. So the company can't the contractor or the installer can't make the application on behalf of the applicant. So the applicant makes the application. Again, it's the year of construction pre-2021, so it must be built or occupied on and before the December 31st, 2020. So the grant amounts are fixed then, so the approval must be in place then prior to works commencing. And then obviously it's 1 grant per MPRN. As I mentioned, then companies aren't permitted to submit the applications. And then also the works then must comply with the terms and conditions. So that's technical standards and specification documentation. And then also then the product installed then must apply with the performance criteria then set out in our code of practice. And just to give you an idea then of the sector breakdown. So this is the paid applications to date. And this is kind of giving you a breakdown of the variety of different sectors then. So we can see there, accommodation. Accommodation does include hotels, guest houses, B&Bs, etc. Manufacturing, agriculture, construction. So there's a wide variety of sectors there across the SME sector. So then to date, then we have grant aided approximately 7.8 million. So since the scheme expanded in July of 2023, and then that kind of gives an effective grant rate of 20%. And then the total investment then from the businesses themselves is approximately 40 million. So you can see then that scheme, since the expansion, is kind of driving that investment and driving that benefit for businesses, as well as the related CO2 savings and energy and cost savings for businesses then. So that's you can see that there's a huge benefit for businesses from that side. And now I'll just pass you back to Alison then, who will for the Q&A.
Thanks a million, Owen. And I'm just going to take control and take down. Everyone can still see. Oh, yeah, stop sharing. Okay, perfect. So we're all back on the screen. Thank you very much for the very informative session, guys. And unsurprisingly, there have been a lot of questions that have been flying through. So I'm going to go chronologically from the beginning. And as I said, we'll try to answer as many as we can right now, but we will be following up with a FAQ sheet. So the first question, can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, I'll be sending out a copy of the slides along with the recording and the FAQ sheet. The next question is, what are the prerequisites for contractors? Tax clearance, I assume. Is there anything else?
So it's the same as the NDMG scheme and most of the other schemes. So it's tax clearance and insurance.
Yeah.
And obviously that's really just for the for the good of the applicant themselves. And I suppose just there's obviously technical requirements as well. So as you go into if you go into the company form for each of the different measures, it shows what the technical and I suppose trained requirements are for the particular contractor. And then we'd also encourage you, so there's a company and an installer registration form, which we'd advise that they download as well and they read through, because they obviously need to buy into those terms and conditions. So as I say, like, we really want to stay out of the way as much as possible. Like,
yeah,
what we're trying to do here is just assist, but we obviously all these things are for the benefit of the applicant. We're not asking you for all things just in case you need to start the project quickly, but again, there's a reliance there on the applicant that they're fully au fait and they make sure their contractor is fully au fait with what they need to do at the start. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And the next question is, can a business reapply for the heat pump grant if they're only doing 2 floors for the moment under the 1 MPRN, if they can only afford to do the 2 floors now and then have funds for a later stage? Can they do the rest of the floors?
There's only a single, unfortunately, and it's similar to the NDMG with the simplicity of the scheme. It's all based on an MPRN. That's only our only reliable way of make sure we don't double fund. If those floors, for example, which you would have in many offices, do have separate MPRNs, then there is nothing restricting you from getting an application for the first floor through that MPRN and then the MPRN for the next floor, etc. Okay,
perfect. Is it only these measures covered? For example, our lighting upgrades. So lighting isn't included in this particular scheme.
No. We currently don't have lighting included.
Yeah.
We are looking at it, but again, it's not in there at the minute.
And is solar PV included? As Owen just presented, we still have our separate non-domestic microgeneration scheme specifically for solar PV. And do these grants fall under de minimis? As you said in your presentation, it kind of falls under both.
Yeah, so we've given both options there. If you haven't expended your de minimis, as the tick box at the end says, I confirm that this isn't going to breed my de minimis, but if it does, I'm going to go through GBR. So again, we've tried to avoid getting detail off you at the end, but you're going to need to prove that one way or the other at payment stage.
Perfect. Is this available for guest house / hospitality? Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, we encourage.
Can I just ask, would they go under the category of hotel then?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, they could go under the category of hotel.
There is another question later about a house domestic, and I'm sorry, they're just similar.
A B&B.
A B&B, yeah, which is similar kind of question.
Yeah. So
if it's a registered business, wouldn't it be still considered a hotel then in this scheme?
Yes, yeah. So they should be able to receive. They won't obviously then get. So, for example, if they receive something through this scheme, they wouldn't get it through the domestic version of the scheme.
Okay, next question. The website says the ground value for the heat pump ranges from 10,000 to 100,000. Is there a way to get an idea of the grant amount based on the size / building type prior to going through the whole application? So as you showed through the process there, it kind of calculates for you as you're going through.
Yeah, I think the simple thing and the aim is obviously to have a wizard essentially that replicates what the website does. Sorry, what the application portal does. But what I'd say is, you can see there once you register, you can go in and you can just start a simple application, and you can use that. You can use the that draft application, so you don't have to hit submit at the end. That draft application will just sit there, so it's not going to start run out or steal any of it. You can go in and cancel it at any time, obviously, as well. So just go in and literally you can see there, put in your couple of details, go to the heat pump measure and just pick the two options, and it'll generate, and you can keep changing that to generate the different costs.
Good. Thank you. Can I get a grant if I'm a sole trade ship?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Again, the solar PV scheme is still separate, the non-domestic mic generation. If the business is not registered to reclaim VAT, e.g. a community service, can the grant be used to pay VAT inclusive costs?
VAT inclusive costs? No. So all the so everything is exclusive of VAT.
Yeah. This is one. Why are the grant values different on the website to the ones just presented? Which max grant value should we use?
Oh yes, yeah. So we have, so there are a couple of anomalies, if I'm being honest, between the values on the grant site and I think on the application guide. Being perfectly honest, there's kind of, as you can see, there's kind of different ways that you can, I suppose, get to the grant value. So for example, if you change if your max grant for the single pump might be 5 grand, but your max grant for all 10 pumps could be 30 grand. So when we were doing the different pages, I suppose there was a different view taken on that. That's something we're going to resolve in the next week or so. Apologies that hasn't been sorted yet. But again, as I say, you can see from one of the things about those simple tables is you can see from, I suppose, the portal there on pumps alone, there is maybe 30 different permutations, and then never mind your building type and your area, which will change it also. In heat pumps, there's probably, when you look at everything, there's maybe 60, including fan coils and radiator. So I suppose it really doesn't, those values don't really provide anyone with really any sense of what they may actually get.
Yeah.
So as I say, we'd encourage people to jump into the portal while we're still waiting for the website wizard to be generated.
Perfect. Thank you. Is the solar thermal support in addition to the other solar PV support? Yes. So you can apply for the solar PV, you can apply for the solar thermal. Perfect. Can a radiator heating control system qualify under the automatic controls grant?
Yes. So under the automatic controls grant, so the wireless system, I suppose we've described them as wired and wireless. I'm assuming what they're talking about there is a wireless system. So the wireless system is more, I suppose the way we've kind of described it is more like an out of the box system, if you know what I mean. Obviously the wired one is won by an established BMS specialist that needs to be fully bespoke and designed. There are systems out there that allow you to buy the elements and stick them on and plug them together nearly in a kind of a mechanical kind of way, not to minimize what it does. Is obviously very beneficial, but that's what the wireless system is based on. Obviously, as I say, best thing, download the pre-app and the company forms, and you'll get an accurate sense of what's covered there.
Perfect. Thank you. Can the wall/roof fabric upgrades be used for chill storage or cold storage fabric upgrades to avoid heat ingress and reduce consumption?
Yes, yeah, they can. Again, it's also based on obviously, as I say, the fabric. If you need to go through GBOR for that, you'll just need to make sure that you're getting those minimum improvements. But again, if it's it's energy based. It's not based on heat savings, if you know what I
Okay.
mean.
Perfect, thank you. And do you need a pre and post BRR to avail of the grant? Saib, you actually answered this. No, a pre or post BRR is not required. But however, if the grant values for the measures breaks the de minimis threshold, then GBER is required. So in that case, then you need to get a BRR.
Yeah, for the fabric, as I say, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to fully qualify or clarify what's in or out of that. But we think fabric will be a requirement, and at the moment, we're hoping that we can do, if you have a post BRR, and then you have a consultant's report, we're hoping that that'll suffice to prove that 10% uplift. But as I say, we'll clarify that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, just I can see that Saib, you've replied to a few of these ones. So I'm just going to skip through them for the sake of time. How do new technologies get registered for grants? We're developing a thermal energy storage system aimed at decarbonizing commercial scale heating systems. Being able to register would be very beneficial.
Yeah, so look, there's in terms of the actual, in terms of elements like that, like we're always interested to see what's available out there. Obviously, it's important that it's established and it's certified, etc. Before we actually start grant funding, because simply by adding a grant to it does legitimize the system. Obviously, that's not new technology, and it's proven. So, and especially in view of the solar thermal and possibly the way heat pumps function as well, it's not something that would be against. But obviously, we need to look in more detail. If that particular person wants to send on the details of what they're talking about, we can have a look.
Perfect. Would a charity, non-for-profit, or religious building qualify? Yes, I believe so. Yep. And this was the question that came up basically about for B&B. So if your business is part of your domestic home, if it's a registered business, they could apply as a hotel, I would imagine would be suitable. Would that be right?
Correct, yeah. If it's a registered business. Yeah.
Building type, a manufacturing facility, would that kind of come under maybe as warehouse, that one?
Yeah, warehouse. As I say, we've tried to keep it as open as possible. Like obviously warehouse covers a vast array of different situations. What I'd suggest in that kind of instance, and again, like obviously we've got an industrial, we've got agri as well, which possibly warehouse could go under. What I'd suggest is, if you want to go in and I suppose put in the details of your warehouse and see, heat pumps and air handlers are the three where we actually size the unit. The rest of the systems, we don't size it for you. You can go in and just type in the details. So solar thermal, BMS, those elements for those. There's one more as well. Anyway, can't think what it is. Pumps. Pumps we do, but there's apart from the air handlers, the pumps and the heat pumps, we do size those. So if you're looking for one of those, go in and put it in and see how it works out. If it's not working out for what you need, let us know and we see what we can do for you. But the other ones, you just go in and type in your details. But so again,
perfect.
Yeah, go and have a look and
see what happens. Thank you. Okay, so someone logged into the portal as a CEM but did not see the option for a new application under the BUS. There's no button except for beside export to Excel. Maybe if you want to follow, we could follow up with them directly just to see what the issue is, if it's an IT thing, perhaps.
Yeah, please, if they can, because we've actually that was the live system that I was actually in just there now when I submitted that. So,
are boiler economizers included in this grant? Or do they come under EOS?
Boiler economizers aren't included in the grant.
Are irrigation pumps upgrades included in the scheme?
Irrigation pump upgrade. So I'm presuming that's for, I'm not sure if that's within a particular, if it's within, say, for example, possibly like a greenhouse or something like that. We may potentially be able to do that. As I say, there's because of the way we formulate it to allow us to calculate the sizes of things, we know that we're going to have to start kind of looking at, say, for example, in that kind of situation, we may have a situation where we create a table where we start showing people you know, if you're this, pick this, if you're this, pick this.
Yeah.
But if they want to send on the details, a bit of details through the email,
Yeah.
we'll see what that is and see what we can do.
Perfect. Thank you. Will providing detailed design and tenders provide higher funding? No, the funding is like set at the certain
Yeah, no, that like
threshold. Yeah.
it's all commoditized grants, and like
Yeah.
that's what allows us to. So if you think about the fact, like detailed designs and things, there is no system within this
Yeah.
for us to receive anything. Again, that sounds like if it's quite an extensive project, possibly Exceed would be the route to go with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just a few more questions, then we'll finish up. Not every building has or needs a building management system. Energy management is a key part of every energy saving project. How can I include energy metering into the energy upgrade of a building that does not have and does not require BMS? What fast grant scheme can be used through this process? Will metering be added as an option? I know that energy metering is definitely covered under our EOS scheme. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so you can get, like, I suppose, depending on the extent of the metering process, like it could potentially be a case that you might be able to go in, pick wireless, for example, depending on what your system is. It may be a fit for either picking wired or wireless BMS, and we can actually allow you to come in under that. So for example, you put in the number of points within your metering system. Obviously you're going to have either, you know, if it's a heat metering system, you're obviously going to have either strap-ons in the pipe, or you're going to be, you know, putting insertion taps into the pipes to check the flow rates, etc. So, or you'll be going to be putting points into the electrical metering board. So if they want to set out what that is, we'll see how we can potentially accommodate it, because I do appreciate that metering is important.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Will SAI provide a register of chartered engineers for the purpose of BMS optimization or for design assistance, similar to the register of energy auditors? So I know we're not doing a register.
No, so we're not doing
Yeah.
a register. Currently, like as I say, with all of these things, as it moves along, if there is an organic interest, so when an installer or a company when we do ask them to register before the end of a project, they do have the option to allow themselves to be made public so that other people can pick them. If that's the case that they want to do that, that's we will be in a position to do that. But I think in terms of it's a BMS specialist for BMS optimization. So again, as we say within the guidance on the website, either look at the manufacturer who actually installed the system in the first place, or somebody who maintains that system. Again, it needs to be a BMS specialist. And secondly, in terms of if it's an M&E consultant, you can speak to Engineers Ireland or look for SIBSI chartered engineers, and they'll give you details around available consultants, chartered engineers in your area.
Perfect. Thank you. We are nearly at the end of questions. So can a community / social enterprise who are renovating a derelict building to create multi-purpose enterprise and community centre apply?
So again, in all of these instances, it relates to something that potentially mightn't be exactly what we're looking at here, because at the moment we're kind of discussing the replacement of existing systems. So for example, if that's a derelict building and there is no boiler, or there is no, you know, that's a kind of, but again, it's like if it's only just been bought over and there's still all them systems in there, and they could technically just start off the building using those existing systems, there is a potential there that we can assist them.
Perfect. Thank you. I think we only have about 2 questions left. If I'm changing the use of my building, can I apply for the grant? So a shop to a hotel.
There would need to be some relation between the two. Like really, as I say, for example, if you were changing a retail unit that was, you know, say like selling bags or something like that, into like a fast food restaurant, and now it's come into a commercial kitchen, like we can't go from a small extract fan in the toilet to to an air handling unit that does a kitchen canopy. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of,
Yeah.
that change of use would cause, would pose a difficulty. But again, if they want to send us on the details, because
Yeah.
we just want to, I suppose, as these queries come up, we want to try and clarify it as best we can for everyone.
Perfect, thank you. And I think this is the last question I can see anyways, is how long is the review process for payment? Are there inspections involved?
There is inspections involved. So the review process is like from the time that you would upload. I think it's typically 6 to 8 weeks potentially, is what we quote. But again, depending on if you get drawn off for inspection, obviously we need to hit a certain level of inspections. But again, that will depend on, you know, the size of your grant, etc. But yeah, like we need to, and we obviously need to maintain a certain quality.
Okay, perfect. I don't think I can see any other questions, because the rest of them, I think, Sive, you've been replying to them mainly in the chat. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much to the team. Thank you very much to all of our attendees. As I said, we will be following up with a copy of today's recording, a copy of the slides, along with the FAQ sheet. There is a lot of FAQs, so we will be working on it probably for a few days. So bear with us so we get it out to you. And again, we would love to hear what you thought of today's webinar. So if you want to scan the little QR code there and let us know, that would be great. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.